All right. Hello, everyone. It's good to be back. It's good to be back here, and as we have seen on the schedule that today we have a long day, and right now we are expecting two more presenters, which will be talking about deeper on the case studies, where Bu Ayesah will be talking about the Mindanao in the southern of the Philippines, and then Pak Surwandono will talk about Indonesia in general. So before handing the time to those two presenters, I would like to introduce them briefly about these two presenters. Now, Bu Ayesah, her full name is Dr. Ayesah Uy Abubakar. And from what I've heard from our conversation yesterday, that Bu Ayesah is originally from the Philippines. So I think it would be very interesting because she's coming from the ground where she is going to talk about in the Mindanao, Philippines. And what is very interesting now is that they have just set up the autonomous region in the southern of the Philippines. So I'm myself very curious about it. Can't wait to listen more about the development of the case in the southern of the Philippines. And I think she can talk about it more. And she is actually the senior lecturer in University Malaysia Sabah. The University Malaysia Sabah in Sabah, of course. And she's also the head of the research cluster on ethnography and development at the Borneo Institute for Indigenous Studies. Now, no wonder why she is one of the Aquantines of the Alberto, because also they both are working on the indigenous communities. And so she is also one of the recipients of the Japan International Cooperation Agency Presidential Award for her work on peace building in Southeast Asia in 2014. Now, I would like to ask whether she is already in the room. No? Okay. Bu Ayesah is still not in the room yet. We're still trying to get her. Mas Ari, can you please send a WhatsApp to Bu Ayesah so she can log in again?
Okay.
Join our room. Meanwhile, I can also introduce you to Pak Surwandono. The link. Okay. Wait. Link kasih link.
Saya kirim ke WA-nya.
Yes, please. Yes, please. That would be great. Mas, can you also please send her the link as well, because she said she needs the link. She lost
link
the link
and meeting code.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. Bu Ayesah was here already before during the transit, during the preparations, and I'm not sure why she couldn't come back here to the Zoom meeting. So meanwhile, I'm going to introduce you to the next presenter, Pak Surwandono. So Pak Surwandono is the senior lecturer here in our university, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta, and he's also the head of the Master Program of International Relations, Social and Political Faculty of Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. He teaches a course on conflict resolution and peace building in the Islamic world, and has published several articles in this area of study. He's also a senior member of Muhammadiyah, a leading Muslim movement in Indonesia. Well, I think he will be also talking about the Muhammadiyah peace building as well. Yeah. Okay. All right. Bu Ayesah now is here. We would like to welcome her here in Zoom meeting. Bu Ayesah, are you there? Okay, you're finally here. I've been talking a lot about you to the participants, and I hope you don't mind about it. But of course, I talk about the good things about you to them. So nothing to worry about.
Okay.
And yeah, I think without further ado, because we don't have much time for our session for the two presenters, I think I'm just gonna hand the time to you, and just let us know if you need anything. We're here for you. Please welcome Bu Ayesah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon to everybody. My name is Ayesah, but you can call me Ayesah. No need for Ibu. Okay, I will start off this session with a poll. I think Ari has, is it Idham has prepared a poll for us, just for you to have a feel about what this session is going to be about. I prepared some statements or arguments that you can think about, and which among these statements are important to you. Can we show now the poll?
Sure, we can. We can show.
Okay, so there are 4 statements, okay, that I want you to choose only one which is of most important to you, or which is more relevant to you. Okay, the first statement is, which comes first? Is it peace or development? Actually, the way that the poll was written is wrong. It's just the selection is, number 1, which comes first, peace or development. They don't have to choose peace or development. And then the second statement is development a counterinsurgency response of the government. No, and then third is poverty, the root cause of conflict. Fourth is, can we see the fourth?
Go.
Okay. What do you mean by development in the context of conflict situation, socioeconomic development, or political development? There are no right or wrong answers here, but I just want to understand, which among these statements are of more importance to you. Okay. So how many participants do we have this afternoon? So far, we have 10 answering the post, 11 now. Okay,
26.
Okay, so if we have 80% should be okay. Let me see now. Okay, so many of the answers are in, okay, many of the answers are in number 4, socioeconomic development. Okay. What else? Okay, shall we reach 80% now? Do we have 80%? Almost, we're now at 70. Not yet. 70. Okay, so more or less the close runners are socioeconomic development and poverty being the root cause of the conflict. Okay, we will end it at that while others come in. So basically, we can end the poll here. So
Okay, we will end
many
it
of
now.
you answered. Okay. Stop sharing. Okay. Okay, can I see everybody? Okay. Okay, so for many of you, you've answered relating development in the context of conflict into you associate it into aspects that it is related to poverty alleviation as part of development work, and then socio-economic development. Okay, and but then again, in this session, I'll be talking actually about development and how it behaves when you are in a situation of conflict and peace building process. As we all know, when we talk about development, you have all these theories about development itself. Development theories such as the purely economic development paradigm. Where the idea is that when you have economic development in a country, which can be measured in terms of GNP and GDP values of a state, then it will have a trickle down effect on the society, and that would mean, supposedly it would mean more jobs and more opportunities for people. But then over the years, we also know that there have been contestation about this kind of development paradigm, and that it was during the time of especially the human development reports when it came out in 2004, that the idea of counterpoint development strategies and theory came about, meaning that it's not only about the top-down approach to development, but it's all about participation at the local level, especially from communities. And then, as we all know, when we talk also about the politics of development, it's not only the countries or the government themselves who are the actors of development. Okay, we also have international organizations such as World Bank, which is more famous for their community-driven type of development and poverty alleviation mindset on development for many years. But at the same time, you have also other international or multilateral organizations such as the Asian Development Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and even the OIC countries, which has its own IDB, International Development Bank. And then the more recent one is also the China Development Bank, which is also having its own philosophy behind development. Okay. But then in the United Nations system, it's interesting to note that it took them also a lot of years, to counter veil or to respond to this kind of thinking towards development. And it was really the work of Mahbub ul Haq from Pakistan and Amartya Sen, who were purely economists, but then their ideas of development was introduced to the Human Development Reports. How many of you have heard about the Human Development Reports by the United Nations? Can I see a raise of hands? How many have come across the Human Development Reports? Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so I assume that for many of you who raise their hands, you are very much interested also in development and development studies. Right? So that's why you come across this report. Okay, but then over the years, while we have this approach to development, we also have been learning a lot that when you have a situation of conflict and peace processes, development as usual is not going to be the same in a conflict, in a context of conflict. So this is where our session today will be focused on, and how does development behave in a conflict situation, such as the when you have a protracted conflict like the right to self-determination type of conflicts. And there are two right to self-determination type of conflicts which I will be discussing as our case study in order to further understand this development idea. And that is the case of Aceh in Bangsamoro or in Mindanao. Okay, so I will now go ahead to my slides. I want to share screen. Okay, can everybody see the slides?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So for this afternoon, as I've already described in the course session, we'll talk about the contestations of development, the politics of development, how certain groups or actors in fact have different views of development. And this is something that you have already experienced, when we did the poll earlier. You have all these contestations or debates in development. Okay, again, just to bring up all those debates, people would have these ideas whether it should be the peace process should be completed first, or should development come in first, even though you do not have a peace agreement. And then when you talk about development as a strategy of a state or a government, in terms of counterinsurgency, is there a correct basis for that, especially when non-state actor groups allude to this claim, or rather they would claim that the government is in fact doing a counterinsurgency strategy and not something that is development for the communities. And then the usual also idea of poverty behind the main cause of the conflict. And then what do you mean by development in the context of conflict? Is it just purely socioeconomic development or political development? When I say political development, it is actually the development itself in the peace process. Okay, well, in as much as the socioeconomic development will feed now into the outcomes of a peace process, you also need development in the political area where you have the negotiation itself. Okay. So there are three objectives that I'd like to achieve during our short time. First is that I want us to imagine how development works in conflict situations, and then from the case studies, I want you to also be sensitive in rethinking and reimagining development in post-agreement situations. So while you are listening to me, I would suggest that you come up with some notes. You write down some notes that you might want to ask me later on, or even you would like to share with us later on. Okay, and then an ending objective is that I hope that by the end of this session, you will have a more definite belief in development itself as part of conflict transformation and peace building. Okay, just a quick exercise. Okay, I want you to tell me later on what do you see from this image, and then I will tell you how is the interpretation. Okay, can anybody tell me? Any volunteers? Any volunteers? What is the image? Moving backward to where?
Hi, Professor Ayesah. I'm Tuba.
Yes.
You see me? Okay. I saw a silver horse who is walking, but the atmosphere or the background is not changing.
Okay. Okay. Who else? Which direction is the movement?
I think the horse is moving forward, but the floor is slipping backwards. It's like challenging, like going against the current.
Okay.
Something like
Who
that.
else? Anybody from the boys or the men?
Ma'am, may I answer?
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
what I saw was a horse which is moving backwards
Okay. Which direction is
towards
backwards?
the right.
To the right. Okay. Okay. Any counterpoint ideas? Opposite ideas? Nobody? Anybody who sees it going to the left? Anybody who sees it going to the left?
Yes, doctor. Yeah, the movement of the horse is not straight, even not it like a mix like go forward and backward and like a turn, yeah, turn over like that. It's not straight.
Okay. So you're being safe. You are saying that it moves everywhere, both sides.
Yeah, and yeah, back and yeah.
Okay. Well, they say that if you choose that the horse is moving to the right, you're supposed to be a right brain person, the creative person. If you say that the horse is moving to the left, you're supposed to be the left brain person and you're supposed to be more logical. I also cannot understand and cannot see at all how is it moving to the left. So I guess for many of us, we are right brain person. We are the creative person. Okay. So we'll leave it at that for now, just for us to, to have, to jar our brains, and hopefully we will look at this issue in a refreshed mindset. Okay, so I'll continue now with the presentation. Okay. Basically, what I mentioned earlier about the problem statement, when I was doing my research, my PhD research, I really wanted to find out that if in the future there will be a peace agreement, in Mindanao, in Bangsamoro area, then what kind of development philosophy or development strategy should be put in place? So this was really the main questions that I was asking in my research. Okay, so I'll take you to Philippines first, where we have the conflict in the Bangsamoro region or Mindanao. It used to be that in many of the literatures, you will often read that it's referred to as the conflict in southern Philippines or in Mindanao. Okay, or the conflict with the Bangsamoro people, the state, which is the Philippine state, and the Bangsamoro people. So this is the location of our case study. But now, because of the new autonomous government, it's now called the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Mindanao, or BARM. So it has now become in the literatures that the conflict between the government or the peace process between the Philippine government and BARM as a region. Okay, just to go quickly to the history of this right to self-determination conflict. So just like in any other type of protracted conflict, it has its origins in the long, long history, even during the colonial times. And even just when the colonizers were about to land in the areas in Philippines, so that's how the history of the conflict have happened for many years. And of course, when you finally have independence in the state, in the country, then you have a new form of government. And normally how they deal with the other areas or regions is that they tend to do an assimilation process of these other regions. Despite that, in some areas in the Philippines, like in Mindanao, these areas actually have had already their own form of government. They were already ruled by their own sultans and datus during the time when the colonizers, the Spaniards first came to Philippines. So over the years, the succeeding Philippine governments tried to respond to this conflict issue, but it has been a very difficult part of our history in the Philippines, and it took really a long time for us to come up with this kind of peace agreement that we have now. And as you can see here, that there are actually two Bangsamoro peace processes that we have experienced. The first one was with the Mother Revolutionary Group, or the non-state actor group. The mother revolution was called the Moro National Liberation Front, which was led by Chairman Nur Miswari. They first came up with the 1976 Tripoli Agreement, and then finally in 1996 they also had a final peace agreement, which was brokered by OIC and by Indonesia. And then that also did not do well. It failed, until that government was declared to be a failure. So, but even before it was declared to be a failure, there was also another set of negotiation with the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. The MILF is actually a breakaway. It came from the mother MNLF, and then they decided that they want to part ways. So there came to be another non-state actor group called the MILF. So it is this MILF process that has recently been able to struck a peace agreement, and that who are now, and which is now leading the new Bangsamoro government in the Philippines. I also list there the diversity of the Bangsamoro area in terms of ethnic groupings. There are actually 13 Bangsamoro ethnic groupings, but besides these 13 groups, which are Muslim groups, there are also many non-Muslim groups, Christians and Catholics, and other indigenous peoples who may not be Muslims and Christians at the same time. So they are all part of this whole Bangsamoro region. Okay, I will also not go through this slide anymore because we don't have much time, but just to show you the intricacy of the stakeholder map of this peace process with the MILF. There are a lot of actors that also participated, not only locally, but also internationally. We have all these international guarantors, including Muhammadiyah as a social movement, as an international organization, was also part of this MILF peace process in the international contact group. Okay, and then now we go to Aceh, okay, the other case study that we will also be discussing later on. Aceh similarly also has its history during the even pre-colonial days. Aceh has its own form of government that has already, it has its own civilization, long years of history of civilization, up until the Dutch came into Indonesia, into this area, and then we had this Aceh and Dutch war. And then of course later on this was followed by a short stint of the Japanese when they conquered some of the areas of the Dutch East Indies. Okay, and then until in 1945 Indonesia achieved its independence, and we had the 1947 Linggarjati Agreement, which basically declares Indonesia, and it is agreement between Indonesia and Netherlands, and then later on followed by the Roundtable Conference agreements with Indonesia, following obtaining full independence for the country. And as you can see, I'd like you to look at the map carefully. Here is the tip of this whole peninsula of Indonesia, and you have there at the end is Aceh, and it is actually very close to Penang, the other side of Malaysia. And this is actually where I live, but I live now in Kota Kinabalu, but Penang is actually our home. So from Aceh to Penang, it's just there were talks before that during the martial law period, when the Aceh the GAM revolutionary leaders, or fighters, they can just let themselves flow, if they will just, or they can just swim from Aceh and end up in Penang. So that's how close Aceh is to Penang, and that's why it's not a surprise to know that in Penang, there is a history of Acehnese being part of the Penang society, and many of the Acehnese traders, became traders in Penang, and even as far as Singapore. So this is the dynamics of this region, where you have movement from Aceh to Malaysia. Okay, and this is where I live now. I am now in Sabah. Where is Sabah? Okay, this is Sabah up there. Okay, in Kota Kinabalu, and this is also, and in this whole big island of Borneo is actually composed of 3 states or 3 countries. You have Sabah and Sarawak as part of Malaysia, while you have Brunei, Little Brunei in between, and you have a huge part of Indonesia that includes the Kalimantan areas. Okay. Again, just to show you quickly who are the actors involved in the Aceh peace process, it was mainly brokered by, in the beginning, before CMI became the broker for the government of Aceh and GAM, the Free Aceh movement, there was also an important role by the Henry Dunant Center when they first came in to be a third party in this negotiation. And then as a result of the Henry Dunant Center's work, they were also able to deploy a joint security committee in 2003 that was participated by both Thailand and Philippines. I remember one of the soldiers, Philippine military soldiers that was assigned in Aceh was actually my friend. And when he went to Aceh, and when he came back on holidays to Manila, he would often tell me stories about the situation in Aceh. And then later on, of course, the Aceh, during the time of the CMI mediation between GAM and GOI, then there was also this deployment of the Aceh Monitoring Mission in 2005, which was mainly composed of the EU member countries and Thailand and Philippines, while you still have the existing provincial government of Aceh also in place during the time of the negotiations. And then in terms of peace building activities and how the Achenese people were in fact, not only the Achenese people, but also the Indonesian society who were also participating in this peace process in Aceh, there were several international local actors and international actors who also became important players in the peace process in Aceh. Some of those include in the human rights organizations based in Jakarta, like Kontras, Impartial, Lembaga Bantuan Hukum Indonesia, and of course in Aceh itself, the main local organizations or the bigger coalitions of organizations that were doing all these peace building activities was composed of Aceh Civil Society Task Force, Koalisi HAM Aceh, Flower Aceh, the Women's Group, Central Informasi Referendum Aceh. And there were also other other international organizations such as CRA based in Netherlands and TAPL, which was based in UK. And another, a smaller group based in Penang is the Research and Education for Peace at USM, which I was part of before, or the Southeast Asian Conflict Studies Network. So a lot of all these activities in terms of peace building were done by all these groups of people. And it's interesting actually when we look back, a lot of these people who have been part in the journey of peace building in Aceh, they have, they have also move on to other work, but at the same time, I think the Achenese people and all the Indonesians who have also been helping out the peace in Aceh are very conscious, of all these friendships that have been developed over the years throughout this peace building process. Okay, just to share with you also that in the Mindanao conflict or the Bangsamoro conflict, there was a joint needs assessment that was undertaken by the World Bank in 2005. And this was an interesting project because this was the time when, remember I was mentioning those arguments, whether it should be peace first or development first, which one should come first, and whether a development strategy by the government, let's say the Philippine government, is in fact a counter insurgency strategy. So this was really the time when the World Bank came out with this needs assessment, and this is the result of that needs assessment, again dispelling the idea that it's poverty that drives the conflict, when in reality, poverty is just one of the outcomes of the conflict, but the real driver or the core of cause of the conflict is in fact injustice. That include already the historical injustice, and over the years, the governance and experience of life, over decades, inside this state, this one state policy. Okay. Okay, and this is now the present day situation of the peace process, where you now have a new government, the BARM government, and you also have an intergovernmental mechanism between the Bangsamoro government and the Philippine government. So this is where, in fact, that they continue to build on the gains of the peace agreement. And if there are any other issues, this is the government, the IGR, that where they sort out all of their unresolved issues. While the peace process is still ongoing, there is still a peacemaking process that's happening, being still facilitated by Malaysia. So it's not yet fully finished, because it is this MILF peace process is, I think it's the only peace process in the world that has also innovated many things, including the idea of an exit agreement. So while there is now a new form of government, they continue to implement the peace agreement, and that only until everything has been satisfied, has been fulfilled, only then that they promise to sign an exit agreement. And then when they do sign an exit agreement, then there will be negotiations that will take place regarding issues in the Bangsamoro or Mindanao. Okay, so now we go quickly to what are the lessons that we can get from the Aceh and the conflict in Mindanao. The lessons that I will be taking from the conflict in Mindanao will be the first peace process or conflict and peace process, which is the one with the MNLF, or the Moro National Liberation Front. And then I do this because from studying these two cases of peace processes and post-agreement phases, then I was able to come up with recommendations in the MILF peace process and post-agreement phase. Okay, so just to enumerate some of those things that I picked up along the way in the study, is that for ARMM, okay, when they first came into power, when the MNLF first came into power in ARMM, they were also provided with this economic catch-up plan, but then they came up with another entity. It wasn't ARMM as a new government that was just doing the development work, but they even came up with another entity called SPCPD, and Special Zone of Peace and Development. Which was not only participated by leadership in the ARMM, but also participated by other actors within Mindanao. As you know, Mindanao is not only populated by Bangsamoro people. A large majority of the population in Mindanao is also with the non-Muslim population. So in this SPCPD and Special Zone of Peace and Development, this is where the other politicians also get to participate in making sure that development will be evenly distributed throughout Mindanao. Okay, and then what happened with the MNLF fighters was that they had some sort of demobilization, disarmament, and reintegration for the MNLF fighters. So some of the MNLF fighters, they surrendered their arms. Okay, they were disarmed, and then some of them were also integrated. I think there were at least 1,000 of the MNLF fighters who became part of the Philippine military and even the police. They had to go through some sort of training so that they become professional soldiers and police officers. So there was that event that happened. Okay, but as I wrote there, it's a limited DDR that happened to MNLF. So that tells you also the problems later on why when the MNLF were still not satisfied with the performance of the new government, there were also some skirmishes or armed conflict that happened, precisely because you still have an MNLF who continues to bear arms in some areas in Mindanao. Another result of the post-agreement phase or post-conflict development experience of the MNLF was that as a result of the UN multi-donor program for ARMM, so this was really the post-conflict development program that was designed for ARMM. So they were also encouraged, MNLF people were encouraged to come up with their own non-government organizations and cooperatives. And this will be the conduit, supposedly, of all the community-based development projects that will be given from the multi-donor program, okay, and even from the government itself. So this was the conduit for development work. On the other hand, when we look at the MILF peace process, okay, it has had its different experience, okay, and precisely it became improved. It improved a lot because of the many learnings and during the MNLF peace process. One of which was that in the MILF peace process, they did not have to wait for development and reconstruction to happen. As early as 2003, the government and the MILF, made a peace agreement, and they created this Bangsamoro Development Agency. So this BDA was supposedly tasked that establishing some projects at the local level that are happening and that are being also led by the MILF development arm, the BDA. And then the BDA eventually also came up with its own Bangsamoro Development Plan in 2015. So there was a working relationship that happened between the government and the MILF, through the BDA projects. Okay, and then when you talk about the form of government, this is where the big difference comes in. So maybe some of you will be interested. So what was so different between the ARMM government for MNLF and now the BARM? Okay, it is really a huge difference because before the autonomous region, it's basically like a devolution of powers from the central government to the regional government. While the BARMM, the new government that we have, is in terms, it has now a government that is called parliamentary ministerial form of government. So it actually talks about sub-state, a state within a state kind of relationship it has with the central government. So with this kind of arrangement, then it's natural that you will have reserved powers for the state, for the national government, while the BARM as a new government will have its own exclusive powers, while there are also concurrent powers that are shared powers between the national government and the new BARM government. Okay, and then in terms of the peacekeeping or peace monitoring during this time, even up to this time, we still have the international monitoring team, which is being led by Malaysia and participated by many other countries. Okay, and then when you also talk about the implementation of the peace agreement, if in the MNLF phase, or in any other type of peace processes, you have a DDR. In this MILF, they were smarter enough to introduce this concept of normalization. So inside this normalization, it does not only involve rehabilitation of combatants and their families and communities in the MLF camps, but it also includes the formation of like local policing or local police in the BARM. Okay, and it also includes other important security sector reforms in the BARM that may not be, that will be under the jurisdiction of the national government. One of that is the private armed groups. Just like the US in the Philippines, Philippines follows the US policy where private citizens can actually can arm themselves, can own ammunition, small arms. sometimes small arms, to some extent, bigger weapons. So it's not entirely true that many of these weapons are just in the hands of non-state actor groups. In fact, the International Alert in UK came up with a study, and then when they calculated, estimates, only a certain percentage, a smaller percentage of the weapons are in the hands of non-state actor groups, but a large percentage of the weapons are actually belonging to the private armies or private citizens. Okay, and then I already mentioned that in this new peace agreement with the MILF, it is not only about devolution of power, but there is actually a more definite system of power sharing and exclusive powers that is being given to this new government. Okay, and of course, in terms of commitment of funds, if in the MNLF they were more like in the layman's term, most people in Bangsamoro, they tend to describe this, that the ARMM actually have to beg for money every year from the central government. So this time around with the BARMM, they don't have to beg that money, but money is already appropriated, and there is a certain calculation that has already been put in place in the peace agreement. So it is more systematic and sustainable in a way when you talk about commitment of resources. Okay, I'm afraid I'm taking too long. Okay, I will try to quickly also differentiate the post-agreement situation in terms of development of MNLF and Aceh. Okay, with the MNLF, I mentioned earlier that we have had this experience of NGOs, being built suddenly, and then all these cooperatives, because precisely they were used as conduits for donor funding or for government funding for community development. Okay. Whereas for the UN multi-donor program, they came up with this novel idea they call peace and development communities. So you can see here that not only do they right away give money to all these PDCs, but in fact they prepare, they educate the community, and the community are developed in a way that they will have the capacity, to do their own development planning, and how do they really build on the development in their areas. So this is at that level, at the community, or what we call the village level. So a lot of the PDCs were built, in many of these Bangsamoro areas. And to some extent, all these PDCs have been very successful, because it shows you that when you in fact build the capacities of local communities, they will be able to champion their own ideas and on the kind of development that they want to do for their own communities. And to some extent, it became sustainable, because once you inform them that you will always have a limitation of resources, then it's all up now to the communities to be very creative in order for them to continue and sustain their development activities. So these PTCs have been successful to that extent in terms of local empowerment. But the problem of the PDCs, because you still have the political process, the ARMM itself as a government, having a lot of failures. So however development that you bring to the local communities, but if the political process itself is not also in place, then you will continue to have a fragility of the whole development process in the conflict affected areas. Okay, now let's try to look at a quick comparison between Aceh and Bangsamoro. I think we are very lucky in Bangsamoro in Mindanao, because we have had a longer history of peace process that was started in 1976 by the MNLF until it was continued with the 2014. So because you have that two levels or tracks of the peace process and a lot of experience of that. And then when you compare that with the Aceh, yes.
Yeah, can we have a bit more speedy, because then we have Pak Sur, and then I think as we agreed before, we would like to have a more discussion afterwards. I think I'm sure the participants are having more curiosities and questions about it later.
Okay, so with the Helsinki process of Aceh, it was really within a short period of time. So that shows why the Aceh peace agreement has been shorter as compared to the many voluminous documents of the MNLF and the MILF. So I will skip this later on, and you can, I will skip this for now, and then later on you can ask me about exact differences. Okay, and then, okay, since I explained already the MNLF, just to highlight, what was interesting with the Aceh post-conflict development. With the Aceh post-conflict development, it was not UN that was driving the development, the post-conflict development in Aceh. It was actually the BRR. Okay, and this BRR is mainly government-led, but you have a lot of Achenis participating. So this is, to me, was a very interesting thing, because it tells you the sincerity of the Indonesian government, that they really put the resources into it. And then at the same time, while it is state-led, they also were very open-minded in allowing a lot of the participants from the Achenese community to be part of this BRR. In fact, the leaders of BRR were Achenes themselves. Okay, and then when you talk about the integration of the former GAM fighters, they also have their system. Basically, in the BRA, they made sure that a lot of the GAM fighters, former GAM fighters, they were compensated in terms of money, in terms of housing, in terms of economic development, and other opportunities. Okay, I will also skip this, but just to identify that when the World Bank actually did a multi-stakeholder review of post-conflict programming, because when the Aceh post-conflict happened, it was also part of the post-tsunami rehabilitation. So naturally, as a result, peace building was one of the weak points of the whole post-conflict development in Aceh. Okay, and then as for the Bangsamoro MNLF peace process, one thing that we can learn from this peace process is that it has had a good experience of a lot of extensive consultations with civil society groups. Okay, I will just discuss this later on, but I will also send these slides to all of you. Okay, just some pictures. Okay, these are the pictures I took when I was doing my field work studies in 2004 up to 2007. Okay, and basically when I look at development, I follow this philosophy by Amartya Sen about the idea of development as freedom, making sure that you enlarge people's choices and enhance their capabilities. And that is what development is all about. Okay, so I follow the Sustainable Human Development Index, although not everything can be counted in the index. So that's why the HDR reports also come up with thematic reports in order to discuss thoroughly the qualitative aspects of development. Okay. Okay, and this is the framework that I came up with. Mainly, I was bringing together the idea of sustainable human development and building, in which both of these things where you have right to self-determination, aspirations of the people. Okay, and I also have a working definition of building. Okay, maybe this is end slide, the last slide that I show you. Okay. Since our make use of development as part of conflict transformation and peace building. As I mentioned earlier, over years, development has really been a very contested issue in the case of Aceh, or even in the case of Bangsamoro. But throughout that journey of contestations, a lot of civil society groups also were very assertive, as a result of peace and conflict studies and education. And then they were very assertive on what kind of development do they want for their community, and that's how we are able to start the transformation process, that bringing development at the core of the peace process itself. When you look at the definition of both conflict transformation and peace building, both are actually in nature. Talks about the relationship itself, about all the actors, how both actors need to rebuild, engineer its new relationship. So to me, to some extent, conflict transformation and peace building are similar. Okay, and then to conclude, okay, I'll just read this one. As what I have experienced in work and in my accompaniment of the MNLF peace process, development philosophy is really something that cannot be left alone, you know, to the donor organizations or even to the government. It is in fact something that is very important, and it has to be part of the political peace negotiation discussions. It cannot be an afterthought or a secondary priority during post-agreement, because it is, we all know that it is development that will sustain peacemaking and the whole peace process. Okay, and then however, in the recent in the Aceh and Bangsamoro peace process, it's also interesting to note that conflict transformation and peace building becomes more challenging, because once you have a new government in place, it's like just replacing the old government and a new government. While you can see a lot of new changes in the new government, still it seems that conflict transformation and peace building activities and the philosophy behind it have been lagging behind, you know, in the spirit of making sure that the peace process will bring about durable peace. So I will end my slides here, and I look forward to your questions later. Thank you.
Well done, Bu Aisyah. And it's a very, the information is very overwhelming. And I got so many curiosities, and I'm sure the participants are as well. And we will give a chance for them to talk about or to ask about, to discuss about later after Pak Surwandono's session, after Pak Surwandono's turn. So let's just wait. The participant, I know you can't wait to ask about the Mindanao and the topic of Bu Aisyah, but please wait. We will have Pak Surwandono now. Pak Surwandono, are you there?
Okay, Mas Ida.
Okay, so I will give the time to Pak Surwandono to start the sessions. Please, Bapak.
Okay, thank you very much, Mas Ida. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon for our participants. Okay, I will introduce myself. My name is Surwandono. I am a student lecturer in Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. I will discuss about a peace proposal, especially in the case of Indonesia, especially in the Muhammadiyah involvement in the peace process, especially in Indonesia, in Philippines, and in Thailand. Okay, yesterday I conduct about the survey, so I will share the result of the survey. This is very a wonderful result. It's very a different thing when we conduct a survey in the MKPS, OMB, work in the Mahathir Global Peace School. I have a trainer in this activities, in the two activities in Yogyakarta and in the Kuala Lumpur. I got a very different thing. It's very wonderful from this session. I got the result is very, very good result. I will share about it. Okay. Yesterday we conduct about the survey, and the participant involved in the survey more than 29 participants. We got some result. It's very very happy for me when we got the result. We will compare about the four style when we discuss about conflict. Example, the first one we discuss about the avoiding style. Jonathan may call it rabbit style. And the second one we discuss about the confronting style. Jonathan may call it the bulldog style. And the third one we discuss about the chameleon style, accommodating style. And the last one we discuss about the bee style. from the participant, we got this result. It is very, very good result. So it is not difficult to transform about the idea of peace to this group, because in the previous idea, I think all participants tend to have about the integrating style. So I want to know from some person, especially when we discuss about it, we give green color, like from Pakistan, we got about a participant from Pakistan. The integrating score got under 20. We got from Pakistan from 3 participants. And when we trace from the Poland, I think we got some worse result from the 3 participants. When we discuss about the integrating style is less integrating. So I want to know why from Pakistan, from Poland, have different idea, different meaning about it. Okay, I want to know from a Pakistan participant to explain about the result of survey. Any comment and idea, especially from Pakistan? I want to know why the participant from Pakistan tend to articulate idea about the less integrating when we discuss about the conflict. Any idea and comment about this result? Especially from Pakistan or from Poland in the previous one?
Cuba, maybe.
Okay. Time of yours.
Any participant from Pakistan or Poland to share about this result? Oh, Dilawar would like to respond, Pak. Dilawar?
I'm sorry, Surwandono. Actually, I can't really understand your question because of your accent. Please, I'm very, very sorry. If you write it, so I can understand it. Please.
Okay. I will explain again. Yesterday, we conduct about the survey to identify about your conflict style. We want to discuss about the conflict style. It's very important thing when we discuss about the peace building process. It is a must we discuss about how to encourage idea about the integrating style. Like when we discuss about Jonathan May, a classification, we discuss about the 4 style like avoiding, confronting, accommodating, and integrating. Majority from the participant articulate idea more integrating. We got about the 72% articulating. It is very important we discuss about the more integrating, but we got from the 27% the integrating style just less integrating. When we identify from the counter evaluation, we got some information like this one. We discussed about example Pakistan.
Dilawar is like to reply, I think. Dilawar, please reply.
Hi everyone. Actually, on the lighter note, we in Pakistan are very much familiar with conflicts, which is not the conflicts at the level of family or individuals, but rather than it depends. I mean, we on our everyday life, from family towards the state level, we are confronting at the various level of conflicts. So that's why it is somehow, as per my understanding, it might be the reason that we are very much have understanding towards the conflicts, this can be one of the reasons that we are experienced in it, both at the individual level, family level, ethnetical level, and because we in somehow we can say, as per my understanding, I can say that we are in somehow into the identity crisis, and maybe not all the entire nation of Pakistan, but I can say some of the some of the component of Pakistan, like Pashtun, Baloch, Sindhi, or other, they might be facing some identical issues. And another aspect is that the civil society in Pakistan, although now it is under the pressure, but it has been very active from last 20 to 30 years. So which is also one of the indicator that they have mobilized people, that conflict is not only having a negative connotation, but it is also positive connotation too. Every conflict is I don't remember the exact word in Chinese, YG, I guess it is YG, which means the conflict is a threat as well as it is an opportunity to resolve it. So as per my understanding, that we are very much okay with conflicts, because we face every day at every level due to the injustice, discrimination, both at the family level, at the institutional level, at the schooling level. So that's why people are very much okay, and they can easily understand that how we can deal with it rather than going into to the confrontation. It is better to integrate with it and be open towards it, that it can be resolved. Another aspect is that since 1979, we have a neighbor, and which has been in the turmoil, like Afghanistan. I'm speaking about Afghanistan. So the issue of Afghanistan has been also affecting Pakistan in direct or indirect way, or it means that every individual who is even if not directly affected by the influx of 4 million refugees since 1979, but indirectly everyone has been affected. So that is also one of the aspects that people in daily life, they discussed everything which relates to conflict, and they try to resolve it on the positive way.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Dilawar Khan. It is very
Thank you.
important thing to get your explanation about it. I want to get a comment from the following participant. Any participant from Poland attend this Zoom? Okay, thank you very much. I will discuss about my main presentation. Especially, we want to discuss about peace proposal, how to make peace, example. So we want to discuss about the main idea. We want to discuss about how to create peace giving more incentive than conflict. Why we discuss about it, when we take from the peace barometer, conflict barometer index, in the third countries, we discuss about the mainstreaming conflict in the third countries, especially in Indonesia, in Myanmar, in example Pakistan, Afghanistan, and so on. We discuss about the instrumental conflict as an instrument for getting the power. So we discuss about the struggle for power from elite, from the society, and so on. Okay, we can discuss about example the kind of conflict, like when we discuss about the primordial conflict, instrumental conflict, and constructivist conflict. Like Ibu Ayesah Abubakar, when discuss about the Mindanao conflict and Aceh conflict, we can understand about the causes of conflict, represent criminal conflict. But in my dissertation, I discuss about the conflict in Mindanao and Aceh is in the instrumental conflict. Conflict as the main instrument for getting power, especially for the elite, example. So we discuss about it. it is a must when we want to make about the peace building. It is a must we identify about the scale of conflict from the stakeholder of conflict. Like when we discuss about the B style, we discuss about the integrating style. And we discuss about the book law style. We discuss about the confronting style, rapid style, avoiding, and chameleon style. Like we discuss about accommodating. It's very happy for us when we take about the survey. All participants represent about this style. So it's the good news for everyone in this courses. I think your will, your intention to the peacemaker is bigger than the example the provocateur. When we discuss about in the MGBS courses, we can compare about it. Example in the two MGBS, all participants in the previous courses represent about the product style. So it's very difficult for me to transform about the idea of provocateur, the idea of peacemaker. It's very different. It is very different thing. It's very difficult thing for us how to transform about it. But like with the survey, it is very easy for us to transform the new idea, the new value about the integrating system. Okay, when we discuss about uh, how to make effective peace building, it is must be discussed about the motive of the conflict, especially when we discuss about in uh, theoretical framework. We can classify in the three category. The first one we can discuss about the motive of conflict from the nature, so we can uh, relate it with the idea of Simon Freud idea. When we discuss about uh, the second one, the motive of conflict related with the culture. So we can discuss about example from Johann Carlton idea. The motive of the conflict is in us and internalized values. But in the last, we can discuss about from the left paradigm, like the Karl Marx, and the motive of conflict related with the structure understanding. It is around us, institutionalized, positive and negative, and sanction example. So especially, and we discuss about and third countries, especially where conflict emerges, we can discuss about in the cultural and the structural. So it is must to discuss about it. So I want to share about the new quiz. I want to know about your capacity to arrange the some potential news, some potential information, how to making peace. So I will share about the a simple quiz. Okay, I will share my PPT. Okay, I have example. I have 20 cards. I want to all participants in example in the 5 minutes, make it about the wonderful sentence. You must create about the most wonderful sentence with example 5 cards. Like you can compose about the other form of conflict or violence and so on. You can compose about the best sentence, the wonderful sentence related with the peace. I give 5 minutes for all participants to create the best sentence and articulate your idea and why you choose the sentence. Okay, I give you 5 minutes. Starts now. I call to all participants.
Okay. Are you all clear, guys? So you select 5 of, we imagine that these are cards. Then you select 5, then you create a sentence. If I'm not mistaken, Pak Surzia.
Yes.
Select 5 and then create a sentence to define about peace. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Is it a sentence, Prof?
Yes.
Yeah. Sentence from this different color of card. Yeah. 5 only. Select 5.
Select 5 cards.
Yeah.
We discussed about how to arrange about the element of peace, element of conflict, and make it better.
Yeah.
The participant who found about the best sentence, please raise a hand or write in the chat room.
Yeah. Some participants have written in the chat room, Pak. Three participants.
Okay.
So yeah, some can write in chat room, or you can just raise hand and say the sentence that you pick up.
Okay, I will want to know from the first one from Afifah Abbas. You discuss about the absence of war is peace. What is the meaning idea?
Maybe this word just came first into my sight. Maybe because I'm living in Najran, it was having this war because there's war zone between Saudi and Yemen. So maybe that subconscious or unconsciously got attention to my side.
Okay, why to choose it is the best sentence for you? When we discuss about it, the absent war is peace, I think it's meaningful idea. But we discuss about peace in the negative peace. Not we discuss about the positive peace. It is a must. When we discuss about the vision of peace, we discuss about the positive peace. The absence of war is peace is the definition that have the idea about the negative peace. Okay, thank you, Miss Afifa Abbas. I want to know about from Mr. Kiaulo. Conflict enter as a weapon of peace. What is your reason you create the sentence?
I think it's more towards the fact that it's my personal perspective, but conflict and peace are the two sides of a coin. And it only matters on the perspectives, and on a neutral perspective for me, the very conflict enters as a weapon towards peace. So it's sort of like the bad guy who is unavoidable, but the end journey is indeed peace.
Okay, but in my opinion, I think you discuss about example. I think you encourage idea about the instrumental conflict, but it is okay for me. Let me discuss about it. Okay, I want to know from Miss Nikita. peace is the first to be developed within individual.
Yes, so this looks at an aspect of positive peace and looking at internal peace.
Okay, good
We
idea.
are, yeah, so we're looking at peace as outward conflicts, but we also have to recognize that conflicts also have an internal aspect. And first, before we can resolve any conflict, we have to look at our values, question our values. Do we see this person as a human being? Do we respect them? Do we see them as someone that we could respect? And once we re-examine our values about ourselves and the other persons, then we can then be able to realize peace in its full capacity. So understanding that the internal aspect of peace is important, and that goes back to Mahatma Gandhi concept of ahimsa, and that speaks to internal peace.
Okay, thank you very much. I think and this idea we take from the Dalai Lama wisdom when we discuss about peace. It is very amazing. What thank you, Mr. Nikita. I want to know from Mr. Adibola. I think negative is in the absence of work. We discussed in the previous discussion. So we jump to want to know from Ms. Sarah Albinana. Hello, Mr. Sarah Albinana. Can you explain about your sentence? The strong peace is within individual.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I
go ahead?
I give time to Mr. Sarah Albinana.
Yes, I think that peace is on of us, and when we are in peace with ourselves, and if we collaborate with others in a respect way, we can build a strong peace, not only for us, like individual, no, also like a community. So that's good.
So it's important that we discuss about strong peace in the society.
Yes, yes. I think that if we want to build a peace, we need to start with ourselves, but also collaborate with others to build it.
Okay, I think it's very similar idea from the Dalai Lama. Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Sarah Albinana. And we want to know from Mr. Dilawar Khan that encourage idea non-violent is first developed, blah, 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 blah. Any idea, any reason? Mr. Dilawar, you articulate the sentence?
For which sentence? I have articulated 3 sentences.
Okay, especially I want to know from your sentence non-violent is the first be developed and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, because we cannot avoid conflicts in any stage. It is part of life. That is the reality. But the worst situation in any conflict is the violence. If we first eliminate the perspective of violence from conflict, I personally feel like then the resolution or transformation of conflict is very easy, and one can understand, sit with each other, one can have a dialogue on it, and it will not be escalated, at least as per my understanding.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
okay.
you.
I think when we trace about many sentence in the chat room, we got the main idea from the participant when discuss about peace, articulate about the negative peace. So many sentence that discuss about the absence of war is non-violent and so on. So it is a must from the courses to make it to transform about the positive peace in the visionary idea. Okay, I want to continue my presentation?
A kind reminder, Pak Sur, we will have a 5 minutes left,
Okay.
and then we'll have a break, and then after that we can have a more question and answer session. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I will continue again my presentation. Okay, when we discuss about the peace proposal, it is must we identify about the pattern of escalation, of conflict escalation. We take from the Mr. Johan Galtung idea to classify about the conflict escalation, referring about the health science. We discuss about peace like health and conflict. We discuss about like pains. So when we discuss about the conflict escalation, we can discuss about the pattern of pains. We can discuss about the pain expressed about example, we discuss about the fever. The symptom of pain, when we discuss in the health science, we discuss about the fever. We can discuss about the three idea about fever, like we discuss about the progressive fever, cyclic fever, and flat fever. Like when we discuss about example COVID-19, we discuss about the progressive fever. Fever caused by a virus. When we discuss about example typhoid fever, we discuss about the cyclic fever. And the last one, we discuss about the flood fever, causes by unconditional causes. When we tired, your body is fever, so can be normalized your body when we take a rest and so on. So we can discuss about the main intervention, how to intervene about the conflict escalation. We can discuss about the three ideas, how to manage conflict to be positive peace. The first one, we can discuss about the communication, how to improve about the communication quality. It is very important when we discuss about to reducing about the distortion of interest. So the main intervention we can discuss about the negotiation example. Like when we discuss about in the Aceh and the Mindanao, all of scholar, all of peacemaker scholar discuss about how to solve the conflict by communication idea. But it's very different thing when we discuss in Indonesian case, like we discuss about in the Poso and the Ambon conflict and the Sampit and so on. We discuss about the social, cultural, and economical. So we discuss about the humanitarian intervention. It is not effective when we introduce about the negotiation process. We discuss about why conflict emerges because the poverty quality, like Mr. Ayesah in the previous discussion discussed about the poverty, development, and so on. And the last, we can discuss about the military intervention. We discuss about like in the typhoid fever. Social, cultural, and economical, we discuss about the flood fever. When we discuss about the communication, we discuss about the virus fever. Military intervention, it is the best alternative to reducing human death, human mortality. So we can discuss about the example idea about R2P, responsibility protect, to give alternative idea with the military option. What is the main idea? How to reduce about the human being mortality. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Bapak. I think based on the schedule, we should have a break for now. and then we will come back in 15 minutes for question and answer session. Good break, everyone. We'll be back in.
The theory parts, actually, I put it towards the end. So maybe this is the time for you to ask me questions about the theory part.
Yes, this is it. This is the time for the question and answer session. And let me just remind everyone, well, this is the new schedule that because there are some adjustment on the break time. So we have last 15 minutes. So then there will be question and answer session until 4:15. And then after that, there will be a closing remarks by Pa Alberto. And then we are going to end the session at 4:30. So yeah, welcome back everyone. So we would like to open the session for all of you who would like to ask further about Bu Ayesah or Pak Surwandono. The time is yours. Oh, Christina, raise hands. So we might give an opportunity for Christina to talk, to ask or to have some clarification or anything. Please, the time is yours. Bu Christina.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Ayesha. Your presentation was wonderful, and I have a long list of questions, but I know my time is limited. The first thing is I wanted to congratulate you because for the first time I've seen that the goal was national harmony. And that is something that's very close to me because I'm actually writing about harmony.
Christina, you can ask me the questions directly.
So the question is, when you wrote about the national goal being the national goal being harmony, what do you mean by that? And where did the idea came from of creating national harmony?
I did not write anything about
in one of your
national
slides.
harmony.
One of your slides says that the goal was national harmony.
Oh, I don't think so.
I actually saw it and I was very interested. Anyway, we'll move on to the next question.
Next question. Maybe you can email me later. But
the next question is about the World Bank 2005 and the needs assessment. And the conclusion of the needs assessment was injustice. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Has anything else been developed on that issue, on that concept of injustice?
I will share again my screen and put up that slide. Okay. Can you see now the slide?
Yes.
Yeah. 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 Because, you know, when you do a study on right to self-determination and identity conflicts, of course, you get into the theories about, you know, how does these kinds of conflicts emerge, and one of the popular theorists on this regard is the scholar named Ted Gurr, when he wrote this book called Why Do Men Rebel? So when you look at the kind of right to self-determination or identity conflicts, you know, it normally starts, you as part of liberation movements, just like any other story, in colonial and decolonization history. So like in the case of the Bangsamoro people, it was part of the colonial times, where their territory and their political government, their governments, I mentioned earlier that they used to have their own sultanates and datus, running they already have a mature form of government. So when the colonizers come in and they want to take over, the governance system, including their ancestral lands, then that's how this identity conflict starts. And of course, that is just the beginning part until you now have this the newer government, the Philippine government, doing the assimilation process, which was really a strategic a part of nation building. A lot of the states, the colonized states, go through this nation building process. And naturally, you will have to deal with issues with indigenous peoples, just like in the indigenous Bangsamoro people who are indigenous in Mindanao. So this is how the injustice primarily starts. And of course, over the years, underdevelopment comes in, and politics, national and regional politics also play in. And of course, it gets even deadlier because you now had an armed or a violent conflict where you have a lot of human rights abuses and an armed conflict between non-state actor group and the state actor groups. So that is how you create now this whole circle of injustice. And that's why I make an argument that poverty is just one of the outcomes of the conflict, but really the heart and the core of the conflict is the injustice from the very start. Okay, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Professor Ayesah, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Tuba.
Thank you. First of all, I want to congratulate that there are many limited cases of conflict that result into peace, like you said. So, as a Pakistani, we are facing many conflicts around our state and between our our state. So, what are the main, or what is the core ingredient of peace which can resolve or transform the conflict?
Okay, very good question, Tuba. In our experience in doing peace building work in Bangsamoro in Mindanao, in Aceh, in southern Thailand, and in Myanmar, yeah, a lot of the things are actually not rocket science. We all know that when you do peace processes, it has to be including, as many people as we can. There has to be a multi-stakeholder type of process. You include not only the top level, the main actors, but it also has to include the middle level. A lot of us belong to that middle level civil society, but it also has to include participants from the communities themselves. So if that peace agenda is not in fact in the national agenda, although the conflict is only happening, let's say, in southern Thailand, but if it is not a part of the national agenda of the whole Thailand, then it's not going to fly. Nothing's going to happen. Just like what happened with Aceh, it has that conflict. The discussions of the conflict cannot only stay in Aceh, but it has to be brought all the way to Jakarta. So a lot of the peace building community work very hard to bring this. That's why we also work with a lot of not only the local organizations, but including more local organizations and NGOs throughout the country. So that is one. Second is that there are actually many learnings. If you look at the slides that I shared with you,
Yes.
a lot of it also has to do with very skillful negotiation process. So political negotiation is not something that we can just leave it to the non-state actor group and to government. In fact, I could fairly say the reason why there is a better or improved negotiation with the MNLF precisely because they have been welcoming ideas from outside of that negotiating panel, both from the government and the MNLF. So when you have a diversity of ideas and creative and open-minded enough, to accept these ideas, then you have, more options on the table when they are negotiating. Another
Meaning, like,
example.
when we connect civilian ideas plus governmental ideas and plus defense ideas together, then we sustain peace or bring peace in the conflictual area.
Yeah, but one thing is for sure, Tuba, is that civil society actors also have to be very brave. As much as non-state actor groups are the bravest, a group of people because they would lay their life on the line. It's the same manner with civil society actors. We need also that sacrifice of time, of our own family life, even, if
And be
we
more
really
expressive.
yeah, and if we really want to work for peace. So for many of us in Aceh, in Mindanao, I have a lot of friends on Aceh, and we were like growing up in this peace building industry, so called. So when we were learning together, we really didn't realize that peace would come sooner for both Aceh and Mindanao. I remember at USM, where I was a PhD student and as a researcher, I was sitting beside, I was sharing my office with another Aceh civil society leader. His name is Lukman Age from Aceh Institute. So Lukman and I, one time I made a joke or a bet with him. I told him, because I'm like the walking dictionary, anything about Mindanao and Philippines and Bangsamoro. He's like the walking dictionary for Aceh in Indonesia. So one time I made a bet with him. I told him, let's see who gets peace first, whether you or me. We better make a bet. But lo and behold, unfortunately, tsunami came to Aceh, and that propelled the peace process in Aceh quickly with the MOU in Helsinki. The same manner with Bangsamoro. It's been many years. I started working for the Bangsamoro peace process since 2006 with the consolidation for peace program we had at USM with the Japan International Cooperation Agency. From 2006, we did not really realize that we will come, forward and reach 2014, because I remember in 2008 there was a breakdown of the negotiation. I was in Putrajaya in Kuala Lumpur when suddenly, we were going there to witness the signing of the peace agreement, but it did not happen because there was a Supreme Court temporary restraining order. So a lot of, ups and downs throughout the peace process until you come to a point like it's so tiring. But then who knows, nobody really knows the future. So as a peace builder, you just have to continue going. So eventually we did have the peace agreement in 2014. And it's also not for me to just to be too hopeful, and that's a warning I have for everybody, because the peace process is not yet it's not yet safe. It continues to be fragile even up to today. So it's an ongoing thing. It's like part of our mission in life.
Thank you so much, Professor Ayesah.
Welcome.
Do we have more questions?
A question to Pak Sur as well, maybe.
Okay, I will be respond from the chat room, Mas Ari Paksi.
Okay.
Okay, I will share about my PowerPoint again. The discussion about my chats in previous discussion. When we compose about the 20 chat, we can create about example for best sentence. So I think it is a must when we discuss about peace, especially from the third countries. Especially we discuss about the third countries. It's very possible for us to discuss about it. We can discuss about the idea from Gandhi's example. Like some participant discussing about the non-violent. It is a must we discuss about peace. We not discuss about violence. So like Pa Alberto discussion, it is a must we discuss about non-violence. So we can promote idea non-violence is the weapon of the strong. It is opposite to the idea from the realism. Like when we discuss about the peace is the absence of war, we discuss about the realism idea. When we discuss about the realism idea, I think we can discuss about the developed countries. We want to discuss about in the third countries perspective. We discuss about from the example Asia perspective and so on. Okay, and the second one, we can take the idea from the Lama. Ms. Afifa discussed about it in the very smart explanation. And the third one, like we discussed about the main role of mediators. Like when we trace from the chats, Mr. Alawar discussed about it. It is good idea. It is very important thing when we discuss about the third countries conflict, like in Mindanao, like in Aceh. We discuss about the functionality of mediators. It is must we discuss about the capable mediator. We discuss about the competition between mediator and provocator. So like in the previous survey, I am very, very happy got about the good news from your comment and your attitude to respond about my Google form. Is very, very important thing when we discuss about the peace building, we discuss about the capable mediator. It is must we improve your capacity, be capable mediator. Like when we discuss from the Mr. Willem Zatman idea, it is a must when we discuss about mediator, we discuss about the competition between Davis and Hawkins. When we discuss in the realism idea, when we discuss about the Hawkins and Davis, the possibility Davis be a winner with the example Hawkins is very, very low possibility. But it is must in the specific situation, Davis can be more competitive than Hawkins. It is must we discuss about it. And the last, when we discuss about like from the more participant idea to compose about the wonderful idea about conflict, we discuss about negative peace has historically denoted the absence of war. So it is a must in the courses we can improve about the idea of peace, especially in positive peace. We discuss how to promote, how to improve capability of multi-stakeholder of peace. So we can compete with the multi-stakeholder from conflict. So it is a must we discuss about how to make peace incentive more than negative incentive. We can discuss about it. Thank you very much, Mas Idam and Mas Abibaksi, to respond about the many chat room. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Sur. Ada more questions? Bapak, Ibu? Okay, we got Adebola who raised his head. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. No, good morning from the Gambia. Anyway. My time is just a few minutes after 9 o'clock in the morning here. Doctor, that's a Dr. Surwandono. Yes, my question goes to you, sir. I really want to know the synergy that exists between negative peace, sustainable peace, and positive peace. And having said that, I have gotten to know that negative peace can be defined as absence of violent conflict or war or whatsoever. But I have been trying to unravel how to situate positive peace. Does it actually exist in any climes, in any country of the world? Are we saying that sustainable peace is synonymous with positive peace? Because I'm of the opinion that you may want to, positive peace can be defined as a total, state of tranquil and egalitarian, a just society where the rule of laws, human rights, and whatever are deeply enshrined. But my question is, do we have a society or a country that we can situate within the ambit of positive peace? I want to agree, though I'm not asking my question anyway, but this is my opinion. I want to agree that we have more of sustainable peace than positive peace. That is my question.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Adebola. Okay, I will encourage about positive peace based on the main idea. When we discuss about negative peace, we discuss about the how to mobilize about the power. Example, we discuss about the state security and so on. So we discuss about the pseudo peace when we discuss about negative peace. We not to solve about the main causes, but we just discuss about the trigger causes. We just discuss about the accelerator causes. When we discuss about the positive peace, we can discuss about the main causes of the conflict. Like when we discuss about the health science, like in my presentation, we can discuss about example virus. When we discuss about virus, like COVID-19, we not discuss about the bacteria. So antibiotic is not needed when we discuss about the virus. But when we discuss about example virus, it is a must we discuss about how to improve about your immune and so on. We not discuss about the using antibiotic. Like when we discuss about example in Myanmar causes. When example state mobilize about the soldier to make it peace. So we just discuss about negative peace. When we discuss about the military intervention like United States of America intervene to Afghanistan, intervene to example Libya, to Iraq and so on, we just discuss about negative peace. We not discuss about how to solve about the main problem of Iraq, Libya, and Afghanistan and so on. So it is a must. We want to discuss about peace to make it peace can be sustained. But when the goal of idea just negative peace, I think peace depend on the elite will, the example, the dividend at Emperia again, and so on. But in some time, especially I think the participant, especially from the civilian participant, not military participant, it is a must we encourage idea about the positive peace than a negative peace. Thank you, Mr. Adibola. It's my comment and response.
Okay.
Okay, please, I really want to know something. You see, because if you look at Global Peace Index, countries like Canada, Netherlands, Switzerland are often rated as most peaceful countries in the world. And there are parameters, there are yardsticks that are often used to justify this. But my question is, I really want to know whether at all there is any country in the world that arbitrates in the ambit of positive peace. Or better put, is positive peace obtainable? Is it attainable?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Adibola. I think when we discuss about you say about the example of Canada, like when we discuss about example in Southeast Asia, we can discuss about Singapore. Singapore and Canada is very different thing how to mobilize about peace. Why the peace index in Singapore is very higher in Southeast Asia, because example Singapore mobilized about the security acts. Like we discussed about how to mobilize about the repressive instrument. So I think Singapore choose about negative peace to make it peace in Singapore based on the specific reason. It's very different thing when we discuss about in the Canada. Canada not encourage idea about the Security Act Like example, Malaysia in the position of peace index, I think is better than Indonesia, because Malaysia sometime introduced idea about security act. It's very different with Indonesia. So the rank of peace index Indonesia is worse than Malaysia and Singapore. So it's my comment, Mr. Adebola. Thank you very much your comment.
All right, thank you, sir.
I have a question, Mr. Surwandono. Can I ask?
Okay, time F, yes.
Yeah. What do you think without negative peace or without solving the minimizing the war or negative peace, uh, can we lead to the positive peace if our borders are in conflict in fight and our capital is not? So can we lead to the positive peace?
Okay, thank you very much your question. I think when we discuss in the like example from the hopeless society, example when we discuss in the Myanmar, so the idea of negative it is very important than positive peace. Like when we discuss about my classification, like we discuss about the bacteria fever, like we discuss about the typhoid. It is a must for medical doctor to intervene to cure about the typhoid fever by antibiotic.
If we ask about Afghanistan, like there is negative peace needed and positive peace is also needed.
Yes.
So can we pursue positive peace in Afghanistan without negative peace?
Okay, I think when we discuss in Afghanistan, negative is very important things. We not discuss about positive peace. We discuss about military intervention. We discuss about the mobilization of security to make it stable position. It is we can discuss about it. It is important for Afghanistan. So, like in my survey, I want to know why Pakistan participant articulate idea about wireless integrating. We discuss about the sociological reason, I think. Like when we discuss about positive peace from Canada, like from example, Qatar. Qatar introduced idea about the positive peace, not negative peace, not example mobilize about resource expenditure. Like when we discuss about uh, Iceland countries, it is the highest rank about the peace index. Example, Iceland not mobilized about the capacity of military and repressive one. So negative peace and positive peace is situated. It's very important thing. We cannot differ about it. But in the specific conflict, it is a must we discuss about the negative peace. But in the some special situation, it is a must we can discuss about the positive peace. But in my idea, we can moving forward from negative peace to be positive peace.
Thank you so much, Professor.
We have one more, Kafil, but can you do it very quickly because we are running out of time?
Thank you so much. I have a question for Dr. Aisha. If
Yes, Kafir, go ahead.
This is Kafil, I'm from Pakistan. I just wanted to know when you were doing your field work, whether it was inter-ethnic conflicts or poverty that was the a root cause of conflict. So what was the dominant factor that was instigating or maintaining conflict when you were doing your field work?
As I explained earlier, Kafil, it's clear it clearly started as part of an injustice, of a territory that was forcibly taken over by another state. That's part of state formation. So that was the main injustice, and over the years, it has developed to include the whole marginalization process of these indigenous people. I mean, imagine even as early as late as 1970s, or in the early 1900s, in the book, I actually wrote a data there that in the early 1900s, when the Americans came, a lot of the population of Mindanao were really mostly the Bangsamoro people and indigenous people. There were no people who are Tagalogs or those people who are from the indigenous groups in southern and in Visayas region of Philippines. So it was only after the Americans came in, because they had this assimilation program where they intentionally send people from Luzon and Visayas to populate Mindanao. So that has really tremendously caused the whole marginalization process. I also like to make a correction. While to some extent there is there's a combination perhaps of religious and ethnic issues, but then because of the whole conflict transformation and the peace process that we have gone through over the years from MNLF and MILF, it's actually the peace building community and the academics who have been in a way reinforcing that it's really not about religion and in ethnicity, but it's the whole gamut of all this injustice that started from the history itself. So sometimes, I always have to remind, people outside of the Philippines that they tend to put a label on the Bangsamoro conflict as a religious conflict or ethnic conflict. While it is true that we have had episodes of that in our history, but at the same time, we also cannot deny that it is really not a Muslim versus Christian, and it's not a Tagalog or versus a Bangsamoro type of conflict. It's not the same as the kind of ethnic conflicts that we see in other places, like even in Indonesia, where more or less you have a more clear-cut ethnic type of conflicts, but not in the Bangsamoro conflict.
So you want to say that it was not a religious, factor, that was more a political one, if I'm not getting it wrong.
Yes. Yes. That's why this kind of conflict, we call it right to self-determination conflict and identity conflict, because it is the aggregation, the collection of all these injustices from the dispossession of territory, marginalization in terms of political participation, in terms of development.
I got it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you so
welcome.
much. Well done, the presenters, the participants. Thank you so much, Bu Ayesah. Thank you so much, Pak Surwandono. I think it went very well today, and I know that the curiosity is even more, and but due to the limited time, I think we should end the session of the question and answer sessions. And I would like to give the time to Pak Alberto to have a closing remark of the day, and I think it would be also the closing afterwards. Thank you, and Pak Alberto, please your time.
Thank you very much, Mas Idam, and thank you so much, Bu Ayesah and Pak Sur. I think the two of you have done extremely well in contextualizing, what we have been grappling with in terms of concepts so far. So I just want to touch on a few things for all of you to think about in terms of your own critical reflections on what we have covered so far. I know it's been a very long day for you, so I'm not going to take so much of your time. So first of all, we have come up from the last 2 days, a list of concepts. So let me just make a quick read through some of this list that I've come up with. And in terms of these concepts, we also have to take into consideration the language, the vocabulary. Concepts are constructions. So someone must have created these various concepts and in the sense, defined them in particular ways, okay? So we have looked at a number of, we have been offered a number of concepts so far: peace, conflict resolution, conflict transformation, and just now Bu Ayesah on development, sustainable development, Pak Sur on integration, and then we have lurking in all these is the concept of violence, and then we have also structural violence is another concept, and Bu Ayesah brought up the concept of poverty. Now, then early on, we had, Jenny Murphy talking about from Lederach in terms of linear and circle processes. So we have all these different kinds of ideas that have been presented so far. Now, in any of the constructions, any of the concepts that has been presented so far, they are contested. So they are not in any way, don't just think that this is the definition, that if Bu Aisha defines conflict transformation, that's it, it's locked in stone. And it's, that we all follow these definitions as they are. The whole idea of this course is for you to start to engage in these concepts in the most critical way you can. Okay, so let me tell you a bit about the issues that we have at the moment. So first of all, if these are constructions, then we should be able to deconstruct, to find out the meanings that are attached to these various words, concepts. So you take the word peace, for example. We had this discussion just now on negative peace, positive peace, sustainable peace. And the thing is this, that any word that you use, which is a noun, peace, and then you throw an adjective in front of it, and the adjective is supposed to then describe or clarify or change the meaning of the noun. So we have a number of concepts like this. So we take developments. We have participatory development, we have sustainable developments, we have a whole range, human developments. And once again, the noun is developments, and then we have an adjective that begins to supposedly describe that noun. So the point here I want to make for you to consider is that we have to start deconstructing. And when we are doing this, we also have to think in terms of the discourse. So far, we find that when we speak about discourse, it is how language, concepts, constructions, stories, words, vocabulary, how they have been used in a way of through people with the power. They have been used in such a way to say that this is the only way we can speak about these words. So peace, this is how the discourse of peace. Violence, this is how the discourse of violence. And let me give you one example here in terms of development. This is the discourse of development. So when we have Amartya Sen saying development is freedom, then you have a person like me next week who is going to tell you that development is destruction. So I'm not saying that you believe in me, but whenever we make a discourse like this, then what we are attempting to do is to challenge the vocabulary, the meanings, and also to look in terms of what I call relational logic. There is a discussion that's going on among some of you, Pakistani versus Indians. Let me just ask you the question, who would a Pakistani be if there are no Indians? Because what happens is that we begin to think in terms of the relational logic. We look at Achenese, we look at Javanese, we look at all these different groups of people in terms of these relational logic that defines them as if like they are different, and that they are, in a way, we have to learn how to deconstruct these kinds of logics. And when we look at the word, another example I want to give you now is to look at the word poverty. When I was teaching a course in development, I would walk into my class and I would say to students, poverty does not exist. And the students will all look at me aghast. They say, how could you say poverty does not exist? What kind of person are you, to say that it does not exist? And I say, poverty does not exist, poor people do. And this is where the distinction is, because poverty is a concept, and poverty is defined on the basis of anyone who earns less than $1 a day is considered to be living in poverty. So you use certain kinds of definitional tools to define a concept. But when I say to you that poverty does not exist, because poverty as a concept only exists in the minds of the people who imagine and perceive that there is something called poverty. So what we need to do now is that we have to start looking at these definitions and then begin to challenge them on our own. And the way we do this is that all the presenters are going to present a range of different kinds of concepts for you to reflect on. And this is how we hope that this course will progress as we go along. So the other pair that some of you were talking about was friend and enemy. So once again, you know, we create these kinds of dualisms that if you are an enemy, then you can't be my friend. Or if I'm a friend, then I'm not your enemy, because we create these kinds of dichotomies, these sorts of. So we have to learn now to begin to challenge them and to try to change the kinds of discourses that are being presented. So very soon I will be presenting a different perspective to sustainable development. Okay, and I'll be very critical of sustainable development. I think some of my students who are from my course in Castellon, they would probably say to me now, Alberto, please shut up, because they have had enough from me about the problems with sustainable development. Then we have indices, the Peace Index. The question you want to ask is, who comes up with those indexes, the indices? Who does that? And what are the various concepts? What are the various, what's the thinking behind that? And that's where we have to look at the kinds of discourses that relate to the thinking that then begins to conceptualize, and then the vocabulary, then the words, and then and then it goes on. And then at the end of the day, we say, this is how we define peace. And that's why a number of philosophers today, they have real problems defining peace, and then they come up with the concept of pieces. So it's not one piece, but you can speak about multiple pieces or multiple definitions, multiple ideas. So this is the end of this range of concepts. Tomorrow morning, we will introduce you to another concept, which is dialogue. So very few of you actually have spoken about dialogue so far. And then when we speak about dialogue, you would start to think differently about the word discuss. Because when you use the word discuss, it means this is one point of view. On the other hand, I'm going to present to you a different point of view, because implicit in discuss is debate. But what we want to now promote is dialogue. And dialogue is bringing all what you have covered so far. Active listening, deep listening. It's not just about talking, but it's also about listening. So that's all for the first 2 days. Thank you very much once again to the two speakers today, and thank you so much to all the participants, because you have been absolutely marvelous so far.
Okay. We'll see tomorrow for all the participants. We'll start at 9. Yeah, but the Zoom will be open at 8:45 again. So see you. Bye-bye.
Selamat sore.
Thank you, Pak Sur, Bu
Selamat
Ayesah.
sore.